This podcast uses AI-generated content. All information is for general purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or regulatory advice. Listeners should verify information independently and consult qualified professionals for personalized guidance. Welcome to Luxembourg Fundcast. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, a really core technique in private equity. The contribution in kind.
Or apport en nature, as we know it here.
Exactly, apport en nature. And look, this isn't just some legal footnote. It's a powerful way to acquire assets, seed funds, bring in shareholders, all without cash changing hands up front.
It's incredibly versatile.
As we unpack this today, August 3rd, 2025, we're going to hit three critical realities, things you really must get your head around for success. We're calling them the auditor arbitrage, the valuation gauntlet, and the corporate secretary's new reality.
Precisely. And a contribution in kind, it's often the lifeblood of major deals. So our mission really is to give you the critical insights you need. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting tomorrow or just, curious about how this all works now in 2025.
Right.
We'll cover the whole life cycle. Legal basics, the company, secretarial nuts and bolts, negotiation points, and, crucially, the regulatory shifts shaping Luxembourg today. Those three realities, that's our roadmap.
Okay, let's dive in. Starting with the foundations, the legal architecture. This isn't new, is it? It feels like part of Luxembourg's DNA.
Oh, absolutely. It rests on, let's say, three pillars. You've got the bedrock, domestic corporate law. Then there's the EU layer, ensuring harmony across borders. And then the watchful eye of the financial regulator.
So pillar one, domestic law.
That's the Law of 10, August 1915. It's the essential toolkit. It sets up our corporate forms, SA, RRL, partnerships, and lays down different rules for capital contributions for each.
Different rules depending on the company type.
Exactly. Think of it like a spectrum of diligence. Your choice of vehicle right at the start. That's a fundamental strategic decision. It basically sets the path for how any contribution in kind will be handled.
Sounds like that first choice really matters.
Yeah.
So what does this spectrum look like in practice?
Well, at one end, the most rigorous, you have the Société Anonyme, the SA, and the Société en Commandite par Actions, the SEA.
Right, the public limited company types.
Sort of the gold standard for wider investor bases. For these, any contribution that isn't cash must be valued by an independent approved auditor, a réviseur d'entreprise agréé.
No wiggle room there.
None. And their report is detailed. Asset description, valuation method, and the crucial opinion is the value at least equal to the new shares being issued, plus any premium.
So it's about third-party validation.
Precisely. Powerful independent validation, great for creditor and investor confidence. There are some very limited exceptions, but that's the general rule.
Okay, maximum assurance with the SA and SCA. What about more flexible options?
Then you have the Société à Responsabilité Limitée, the SARL, more like your versatile SUV. Generally, no independent auditor's report is needed.
So simpler, faster maybe?
Potentially. But there's a trade-off. The founders or managers face heightened personal liability if that asset turns out to be materially overvalued.
Okay, so the burden shifts.
Completely. It's on management to make sure the valuation is fair, defensible, and crucially well-documented.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, you mentioned partnerships.
Yes, the most flexible and very common in PE. The Société en Commandite Simple, the SCS, and Société en Commandite Spéciale, the SCSP. Think high-speed drones.
Agile.
Very. Governed largely by contractual freedom. What matters is the limited partnership agreement, the LPA. It defines everything. Less focus on rigid share capital, more on what the partners agree.
So maximum adaptability.
Exactly. Ideal for sophisticated, closely held structures, club deals, that sort of thing.
That really crystallizes what you call the auditor arbitrage. That initial choice, SA, RL, SCSP, isn't just legal admin. It shapes the whole deal dynamic.
It's your first and arguably most fundamental strategic decision. It reflects your audience, your purpose, and it commits the vehicle to a specific operational pathway.
And this sits within a wider European context.
Absolutely. Luxembourg's rules are woven into the EU framework, particularly Directive 2017-1132. The EU requirements for expert reports, especially for public companies, kind of served as the blueprint for our SA rules.
So it provides predictability across borders.
Yes, a robust, harmonized system, good for capital flows.
Which brings us to the third pillar, the regulator, the CSSF, They must be watching valuations closely, especially in funds.
They are. For regulated funds, like a CCAR, for instance, the CSSF, the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier, adds another layer of oversight. Circular 06241 covers some ground there.
But there's something newer, right? This ties into the valuation gauntlet.
Exactly. This is critical. CSSF Circular 24856. It officially came into force January 1st, 2025, so it's very much live now.
Okay, what does it do?
Well, it's technically about handling net asset value errors, NAV errors, but the implications for contributions in kind are huge.
How so?
If an asset contributed in kind is later found to have been materially overvalued at the time of contribution, that can now be classified as a NAV calculation error.
Wow, okay. And that means?
It triggers a whole cascade of obligations under the circular. You need a remediation plan, you might need to indemnify investors, and critically, you must notify the CSSF, usually within 4 to 8 weeks.
So getting the valuation right from day one is now massively important from a regulatory standpoint, too.
Dramatically so. The stakes for valuation governance have been raised significantly. It's not just about commercial fairness anymore. It's about regulatory compliance from the get-go.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. Let's move from the legal framework to, well, the practical execution. The company secretary's playbook. This sounds like it needs to be a meticulously choreographed sequence.
It really does, especially with the LBR, the Luxembourg Business Register, becoming, shall we say, more active.
Right. So walk us through the typical steps for a contribution in kind, say, in an SA or FRRL.
Okay. It usually starts with the board or manager's resolution. They propose the capital increase via contribution. If it's an SA or SCA, the next step is crucial. Appoint that independent auditor, the reviseur.
For the valuation report.
Exactly. Then you'll have 2 key reports drafted. One from the board explaining the deal's rationale, describing the asset, why the valuation is fair, and so on. And for the SASCA, the auditor's formal valuation report.
Then comes the shareholder approval.
Yes, but first, another absolutely critical step for the SASCA, that auditor's report. It must be filed electronically with the LBR at least 8 days before the extraordinary general meeting, the EGM, where shareholders vote.
At least 8 days before. What happens if you miss that?
Your EGM resolution approving the contribution is invalid. Simple as that. It's a hard deadline.
Okay, flag that one. That's a major pitfall. So, assuming you file on time.
Then you hold the EGM. For SAS, SCAs, and SARLs, this has to be done before a Luxembourg notary. Shareholders approve the contribution.
And the notary formalizes it.
Correct. The notary draws up the notarial deed recording the decision. Then, the final step, the notary files a deed plus the updated company articles with the LBR.
And once it's filed,
the LBR processes it and publishes it in the RESA, the Recueil électronique des sociétés associations. Once published, the capital increase is legally effective. Done.
It sounds like the LBR plays a really central role now, not just a filing cabinet.
Oh, absolutely. And this leads us straight into the corporate secretary's new reality. Filing is all digital now, using Lux Trust or IDOS. That's standard.
But there's more to it.
Much more. A huge change is the mandatory Luxembourg National Identification Number, the LNIN. Every director, manager, beneficial owner, any natural person registered with the RCS needs one.
Even non-residents?
Yes. They need to provide ID, proof of address to get one. And here's the kicker. The LBR will now block any filing capital increase, change of directors, anything if any relevant person is missing their LNIN.
Seriously, you could just freeze the whole process.
Freeze it dead in its tracks. Imagine your multi-million euro contribution being held up because one director hasn't sorted out their LNIN.
That gives the LBR incredible leverage.
It does, and it's backed up by new powers. The law of 23 January 2025 that came into force February 1st this year explicitly gives the LBR enforcement teeth.
Meaning?
They're not just passively accepting filings anymore. They can proactively check data quality, ask for supporting documents, and crucially, they can impose administrative financial penalties for late filings.
Penalties. How much are we talking?
It starts relatively small, 50 euros if you're a month late, so in the second month. But it escalates. From the 5th month onwards, it hits 500 euros per late filing.
Okay, so that adds up. This really changes the game for corporate secretarial functions.
Completely. It's shifted from a back office formality to a mission-critical, proactive risk management role. Checking LNINs isn't just admin. It's day one due diligence to avoid deal paralysis. Managing filing deadlines isn't just about tidiness. It's about avoiding real financial costs.
Right. So we've covered the legal framework, the process. Let's shift to the commercial heart. The negotiation, the pricing, the costs. This is where the deal is really shaped, isn't it? High-stakes negotiation. What stands out to you about how these deals truly come together?
Well, beyond the mechanics, the contribution agreement itself is where a lot happens. Valuation, obviously, is the absolute core.
Even with an auditor's report.
Oh, yes. The report gives a number, but the underlying assumptions, discount rates, projections, comps, those are often debated fiercely beforehand. And in an SARL or a partnership where there's no mandatory report, that negotiation is even more direct, more fundamental.
Makes sense. What else is key in the negotiation?
Representations and warranties, those binding promises about the asset being contributed. Things like, does the contributor have clear title? Are there any hidden liens? Any ongoing litigation?
So, allocating risk.
Exactly. Negotiating the exact, reporting the scope, how long those promises last, the survival period, that's all about allocating risk after the deal closes. And then there's the issue price and the share premium, the prime demission.
Why is that so critical?
It's about protecting existing shareholders from dilution. You don't issue new shares at some historical par value. You issue them at a price reflecting the company's current market value. The difference between the nominal value and the issue price goes into this non-distributable reserve, the share premium. It connects directly to the overall company valuation.
Okay. And what about the costs? Pricing legal advice, for instance.
Good point. Advising on contributions in kind, especially now with the heightened CSSF and LBR focus, is a specialist skill. It's not just about drafting. It's about navigating complex law, mitigating significant regulatory risk, achieving very specific commercial goals.
So pricing reflects that value, not just hours worked.
Precisely. The fee reflects the value of getting it right, achieving the objective, and avoiding potentially catastrophic costs if the transaction fails or attracts regulatory scrutiny. You weigh the price of expert counsel against the cost of getting it wrong. Fee structures vary, fixed, capped, maybe success elements.
Understood. What about the other costs involved in the transaction itself?
Okay, let's run through the typical ledger. Notary fees are mandatory for CSSs, RLs, SCAs. They're regulated based on a digressive scale linked to the capital increase amount.
Standard enough.
Then registration duty. And this is where Luxembourg has a, well, stunning advantage. Remember the old proportional capital duty? Gone. Abolished.
Right.
Now, registering a capital increase, regardless of size, could be billions, triggers a nominal fixed duty of just 75 euros.
75, that's it.
75 euros. 75 euros. It's a colossal saving compared to jurisdictions still charging, say, 0.5% or 1% on the capital value. It's a massive draw for large transactions.
Wow. Okay, what else?
LBR filing fees are quite modest, administrative, really, maybe tens of euros. For SAS and SCAs, you have the independent auditor's fees, which can be significant and vary wildly depending on how complex the asset is to value. Valuing listed securities is easier than, say, valuing niche private tech IP.
And the new potential cost.
Those late filing penalties we talked about. Starts at 50 euros, rises to 500. That's a new but entirely avoidable cost. It puts a financial price on poor project management, essentially.
Okay, that 75 euro fee is definitely a headline. So pulling it all together, what's a realistic timeline look like?
If things run smoothly, weeks 1 and 2, board decides, appoints advisors, auditor if needed. Weeks 2 to 4, that's deep dive into due diligence, valuation work.
Okay.
Week 5 is crucial. Reports get finalized. And critically, for SASCA, the auditor's report gets filed with the LBR. That starts the 8-day minimum clock ticking.
Right, the 8-day window.
So week 6, at the earliest, you can hold the EGM before the notary. Then week 6 to 7, the notary gets the deed and updated articles filed with the LBR.
And the final step.
Week 7, typically the LBR processes everything and publishes in the RESA. At that point, bang, it's legally perfected. So realistically, about 6 to 7 weeks if everyone is aligned and efficient.
That's helpful context. It's clear Luxembourg's position as a PE hub isn't accidental, it's strategic. So let's talk about that competitive edge. What does this all mean for Luxembourg's global standing?
Well, it's not just one single thing. It's the synergy, the network effect. That's what makes it so powerful and hard to replicate elsewhere.
So more than just tax.
Oh, much more. Though tax efficiency is key, obviously. But start with the toolkit itself. The range of corporate and fund structures, SA, RLL, SAS, SCA, SES, SESP, it's unparalleled. It allows for truly bespoke structures. Think of the RAIF, the Reserved Alternative Investment Fund regulated features without direct CSSF supervision day-to-day. That's innovation.
Right, flexibility is a major theme.
And stability. The tax regime is reliable, predictable, EU compliant. Key features like the participation exemption on dividends and gains, generally no withholding tax on interest or liquidation proceeds, loads of tax treaties.
And the €75 registration fee.
Exactly. That €75 fee is a powerful, tangible statement. It attracts high-value business. Then there's the regulation. Robust, yes, adhering to AIFMD and international standards, but also pragmatic. The CSSF is known for being accessible, engaging in dialogue. That breeds predictability.
And the people on the ground, does that matter?
Hugely. It's perhaps the inimitable advantage. The concentration of highly skilled, multilingual professionals, lawyers, tax advisors, auditors, fund admins, COSECs, all with deep PE expertise.
Well, the whole ecosystem is here.
It is. The expertise you need is readily available. That drives efficiency. Look, the statistic speaks for itself. 18 of the world's 20 largest PE houses have operations here. They're not here by chance.
And the international aspect.
Luxembourg is the world leader for cross-border fund distribution. The Luxembourg brand means quality, governance. And the AIFMD passport gives access to market funds to professional investors across the entire EU. It's the gateway to Europe.
So it's this combination, this ecosystem, that creates the advantage.
It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Success breeds expertise, expertise attracts more business, which drives further innovation. Very hard for others to match that network effect.
Okay, let's look ahead then. We've talked about 2025 being a significant year. What does this horizon really mean for private equity here? It feels like a maturation point.
I think maturation is a good word, or perhaps structured integrity. Look at the law of 23 January 2025, which kicked in February 1st. It fundamentally changed the LBR.
From passive to active.
Exactly. No longer just a repository. It's now proactive. Monitoring data quality, demanding evidence, applying those sanctions and financial penalties. This directly reinforces what we called the corporate secretary's new reality. Good governance isn't optional. It has teeth now.
Okay, that's the LBR. What else?
Then there's the law of 17 February 2025. This brought the EU's mobility directive into Luxembourg law. For PE, which often involves complex restructurings, exits, moving entities across borders, this provides much clearer, predictable legal rules for mergers, divisions, migrations.
So more legal certainty for complex operations.
A much-needed layer of certainty. It defines the documents, shareholder protections, the notary's role. It streamlines things.
And the third key piece from 2025.
Back to CSSF, Circular 2004-856, effective January 1st. As we discussed, it codifies how funds and managers must handle errors, particularly NAV errors. It replaced informal practices with a clear rulebook.
Demanding higher operational discipline.
Yes, and directly amplifying the valuation gauntlet for contributions in kind. Funds need updated policies now to comply.
So if you put these pieces together, the proactive LBR, the clear cross-border rules, the codified error handling, what's the overall picture? It sounds like more compliance burden?
It is, undeniably. There's more complexity, higher operational standards are required, and this is crucial, you have to see the bigger picture.
Which is?
These reforms massively enhance legal certainty, predictability, and governance standards. And who demands that most? Large institutional investors, pension funds, insurers, endowments, the ultimate source of PE capital. They prioritize robust governance.
So it's about reinforcing trust.
Exactly. Think of it as a strategic, long-term investment by Luxembourg. It's saying, we offer the highest standards, ensuring it remains the go-to jurisdiction for the world's most sophisticated, demanding capital. It's playing the long game.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap those three essential truths for anyone involved with contributions in kind in Luxembourg right now in August 2025. First, the auditor arbitrage.
Your very first strategic choice. SASCA versus SARL. It dictates whether you bring in that mandatory independent auditor with the cost and time involved, but also the assurance it provides, or if you opt for the SARL's flexibility but shoulder the direct liability for valuation yourself.
Second, the valuation gauntlet.
Remember, CSSF Circular 24856. Materially overvaluing a contributed asset isn't just a commercial issue anymore. It can trigger a formal NAV error process with the regulator. Getting that valuation right, making it defensible, is absolutely paramount. It's a regulatory imperative now.
And finally, the corporate secretary's new reality.
The LBR is watching proactively. The LNIN requirement can stop your deal cold. Late filing penalties will hit your budget. Diligent data management, timely filings, impeccable corporate governance. These are no longer just nice-to-haves, they are mission-critical.
Master those three, and you're in a much stronger position.
Absolutely, you'll be well-equipped. And perhaps a final thought. This increased rigor, this focus on integrity, while it demands more from everyone involved, ultimately it builds greater trust, greater stability, and that, in the long run, is likely to attract even more sophisticated capital here, further cementing Luxembourg's leading position. It's quite a fascinating evolution to watch.
This podcast uses AI-generated content. All information is for general purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or regulatory advice. Listeners should verify information independently and consult qualified professionals for personalized guidance. Hit that like and subscribe button. It was the Luxembourg Fundcast for you today.